a to je, dakle, kategorija glagolskog stanja ili na engleskom voice. So the category of voice is, as you know, in the English language as well as in the Serbian language, a twofold category, a two-member category consisting of the active and the passive voice. I'm emphasizing this because there are languages, European languages, not too many of them, but for instance, Greek, which have a third member in the category of voice as well, and that's the category of middle, takozvani mediji. Možda ste čuli, oni od vas koji su se malo više spremali za gramatiku, možda za takmičenja ili nešto, dakle aktiv, pasiv i mediji takozvani. Naravno, irelevantno za engleski i za srpski, ali eto, prosto da znate da takva kategorija postoji. Dakle, to jesu neki glagoli, vidjet ćete, imamo mali problem i u engleskom, da nije baš sve jako lako svrstati u aktiv ili u pasivu, glagole koji mogu biti ili ne mogu biti podvrgnuti pasivu. Okay, so in any case, let's just say a few things at the beginning about the passive voice. So if you look at the basic transformational rule of passivization, which is now shown on the screen in the slide. So John kissed Mary, a very simple sentence, but a sentence that has to be of this or a similar structure in order for it to be passivized successfully. So you need to have a subject, a verb, and at least one object in order to be able to passivize a sentence in English. What happens is that the subject becomes, so John, becomes by John if it is mentioned at all in the passive voice. We call it the passive object, but it actually becomes an adverbial, you will see later. Kissed remains the verb, but undergoes the passive transformation. It becomes the passive verb, was kissed. Whereas the most important change is what happens to the object, Mary. Mary becomes the subject of the passive sentence. So Mary was kissed by John, and this is very important for your analysis. Mary is not the object anymore. She becomes, Mary here becomes the subject. So don't think of it as the object anymore. We will see that it has retained its semantic roles and its semantic features. However, syntactically speaking, it is not the object anymore. It has become the subject of the passive sentence. Those of you who have your workbooks in front of you, you can, I mean, it's not necessary, but I just want to say a few things before we start doing the exercises. So it's on page 36, by the way. So in the workbook, page 36, for those of you who can look at it, I just want to stress a few things. So there are some sentences here similar to this one. The butler murdered the detective was murdered by the butler, and so on. And of course, it's obvious that you need to have at least one object. That object has to be the direct object, of course. And then you have the whole passive transformation explained and showed step by step. It says here that you need to be aware that in addition to the auxiliary be, get can also be the passive auxiliary. I have to get dressed and so on. I know that you know this by now. The interesting and important thing is that there are certain verb constraints on passivization, even if you have a transitive verb as the one that needs to be passivized. Not all transitive verbs can be passivized. For instance, the bottom of the page, on page 36, it says, they have a nice house. So have is a typical transitive verb, monotransitive verb. However, you can never say a nice house is had by them. Or, for instance, John resembles his father. His father is resembled by John. That's not possible. And this is where it becomes clear why in some languages they still have this third category, the category of middle voice, for exactly examples like this one, what to do when it is seemingly a transitive verb, however, it cannot undergo passivization. So be careful and be aware of the fact that not all transitive verbs can automatically be passivized. Fortunately for us, there are really few of them. And then, of course, there are some other object constraints. You have to be careful when you have a very long direct object, especially objects realized as subordinate clauses. For instance, John thought that she was pretty. It's somehow awkward to say that she was pretty was thought by John. We don't really claim that it is completely ungrammatical, but it sounds very awkward, to say the least. So instead of saying that she was pretty was thought by John, it's better to say it was thought by John that, and then of course the continuation of the sentence. Or you can extract the subject of the subordinate clause, that she was very pretty, the subject is she, extract it, move it to the beginning of the passive sentence and say she was thought to be very pretty, and so on. So these are the two things that you can do when you have such a long direct object realized as a subordinate dependent clause. At the very end, I just want to stress two things. The first thing is that you have to be careful when you should retain, when you should keep the newly formed adverbial as a prepositional phrase by John, by Mary, by myself, by Alexander Bell, and so on. So be aware and try to be aware when this agent, which was the subject of the main, which was the subject of the active sentence, when it is actually relevant, when it has some importance, when it contributes to the meaning of the passive sentence, then it should be kept. For instance, if you say, I don't know, telephone was, Alexander Bell invented the telephone. The telephone was invented. Then it's not enough just to put a full stop here, because there is a very important piece of information missing. The telephone was invented by Alexander Bell. However, if you say, I don't know, they collected our garbage, you wouldn't say our garbage was collected by them. I mean, it's completely unnecessary unless the context itself tells you that it is important. Because if you are discussing in the street with your neighbors who took away your garbage, whether it was the garbage man, or it was maybe the other neighbor who is curious to find out what's in your garbage and so on, then and only then does it become relevant. Otherwise, you are really not supposed to emphasize the agent when you're talking about collecting your rubbish. That's one thing. Another thing is so-called double passivization, when the active sentence offers you two options how to passivize it. This regularly happens, of course, with ditransitive verbs when there are two objects, the indirect and the direct object. It means that you can passivize the sentence either by changing the indirect object into the subject of the passive sentence, or the direct object, which becomes the subject of the passive sentence. For instance, she gave me an apple. Me, indirect object, you can say I was given an apple, or you can focus on the direct object, an apple, and make it the subject. An apple was given to me. Okay, so these are the two possibilities that you are quite, I think, aware of. Another case when you can have double passivization is, and it has to do with what I have already mentioned, with, of course, regularly subjects that are quite long and realized as dependent clauses, but which usually begin in, let's say, certain more or less general or not really specified subjects, like people think. For instance, people think that she's not smart enough. You can passivize this in two ways. You can say it is thought that she's not smart enough, or you can extract the subject of the dependent clause and say she is not thought to be smart enough. Okay, and of course it's irrelevant, and it's redundant to say suvišno. It's redundant to say by people. Of course, who else would think that she's not smart enough than people? So she is thought, or she is not thought to be smart enough, or it is thought that she is not smart enough. So pay attention to so-called general, very generalized beginnings, like people think, they believe, the public thinks, we consider, they consider, and so on. Usually in such cases, you can do these two things. You can either make this general passivization in the sense it is thought, it was believed, it is considered, and so on. And the other thing is, again, you can extract the subject of the subordinate clause and make it the subject of the new passive sentence. So, for instance, they believe that she's not capable of doing it. So you can again extract she and say she is thought not to be capable of doing this, and so on. Okay, I know this all sounds very theoretical and perhaps abstract, but once we start doing the exercise, I think it will all become quite obvious and clear. So this is, of course, a joke. Exercise 7 on page 53. So you can either look at the workbook or you can at the same time look at both the workbook and the exercise, which we will do together in the slide, so on the screen. So we are really joking because this is the longest exercise in the workbook, and there is a reason for this. So it's not really just for the sake of, I don't know, torturing you. So the passive transformation is very important indeed, and you are really supposed to go through all these examples because they all, let's say, demonstrate or represent different cases of what might happen when you try to passivize a sentence. And it's not really always that simple and that straightforward as it may seem at first. So, once again, please find exercise 7, page 53 in your workbooks. And we can start by doing the first sentence, which I have to admit is really not maybe the most convenient one to start with, because it's at the same time a question, so it's in the interrogative form, and you have to apply the passive transformation. But, I mean, sooner or later you will have to do examples like this one as well. Okay, so is Sarah with us today?
Yes.
Okay, Sarah, so you have the pleasure of starting this long and complex exercise. So who stole the paintings? How would you passivize this and keep, of course, retain the interrogative form? Mind you, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you even before you started. All of you, be very careful. You only have to change the category of voice from active to passive. You don't change anything else. So you don't change the tense, the aspect, the mood, the form in the sense whether it's an interrogative, a declarative, or a negative form. So you have to focus on just switching the category of voice from the active to the passive voice and nothing else. All other aspects of the sentence have to remain the same. Okay, Sarah.
Can we say by whom were the paintings stolen?
Excellent. Okay, that's one possibility. By whom were the paintings stolen? Or the other possibility is to leave the preposition for the very end, and you can say who were the paintings
stolen by.
Stolen by. Okay, so both are equally okay and acceptable and correct. By whom were the paintings stolen, or who were the paintings stolen by? And here they are, both solutions, both are acceptable, and both are given here in red. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, is Jovana Davidovic here? I think I noticed her in the list.
Yes.
Okay, Jovana. So your example is the government has already closed down several coal mines.
Several coal mines have already been closed down by the government.
Excellent. Several coal mines have already been closed down by the government. Very good. Now, you did a very good thing that you retained the present perfect tense aspect combination. So you can't simply say, for instance, several coal mines were already closed down by the government. So you would get 0 points here because you have to keep everything as it was. Several coal mines have already been closed down, and it's very good that you mentioned by the government, because it's not just anybody who closed down the coal mines. This bears, let's say, a certain significance, and it has a certain meaning in the sentence, a certain load, informational load, as we say. Thank you. Sentence C, they had to make plans for extra places in schools in the 1970s. Okay, is Dunja Knežev here? Okay, if not, then Teodora Đorđević.
I'm here.
Okay, Teodora. So what would you do with this one? How would you passivize it?
In the 1970s,
Okay. I mean, you can start with in the 1970s, or you can just leave it for the very end. It's not really that relevant here.
Maybe plans for extra places in schools.
Okay, very good. That's the subject now. So plans for extra places in schools
had to be made in 1970s.
Excellent. Plans for extra places in schools had to be made in the 1970s. Or even you could have, I mean, this is fine, but you could have understood this in the 1970s as part of extra places in schools. So this is also possible. Plans for extra places in schools in the 1970s had to be made. So both are okay. In any case, it's good what you did. And this is the solution that you gave. Good, thank you. The next one, okay, Jovan Lazicic. Are you here?
Yes.
So it says various charities are given large sums of money to the refugee fund. So are giving large sums of money to the refugee fund. What would you do here? First of all, let me just help you. You can have two possibilities here because you have two objects. You have an indirect object and you have a direct object. So what would you do?
Large sums of money.
Now be careful about the tense aspect thing. Large sums of money. So you need present and you need the progressive, both, you see? It's in the present and it's in the progressive aspect. Ono što ste zvali continuous pre.
Are given.
Now you're just missing something to make it progressive. Are being given.
Being given, yeah.
Okay, large sums of money are being given.
To the refugee fund.
Fund, yes.
By various charities.
By various charities, excellent. So you need to mention all these pieces of information. Large sums of money are being given to the refugee fund by various charities, good. And what's the other possibility? Let's start with the refugee fund, for instance, because it's the recipient here.
The refugee fund is being given.
Excellent.
Large sums of money by various charities.
Excellent. the refugee fund is being given large sums of money by various charities. So what we did here is just we focused on two, let's say, elements that are undergoing a certain activity. It's either the large sums of money here or the refugee fund. Very good, thank you. Okay, Milivoje said that he had arrived. Am I right, Milivoje? Has he managed to join us? Okay, if not, then let's see who we can talk to. Is Jovana Banjanin here?
Yes,
Jovana. How did he, sorry, I need to put this here as well.
It says that his microphone is not working.
Okay, no problem. Thank you for letting me know. How did he offend John?
How was John offended by him?
How was John offended? Now, it's really optional. You can say by him, or you don't even have to mention it. I mean, it would be okay. We would tolerate both with or without this agent of the active sentence. How was John offended? Possibly, how was John offended by him? Thank you. Okay, the next one. Dušica, is Dušica here?
Here.
Okay, Dušica. People think that she died in a plane crash.
It is thought
that
she died in a plane crash.
Yes, very good. You don't change anything else. You just transform the beginning. Instead of people think, it is thought. Very good. That she died in a plane crash. Now try to do the other option. Try to extract she and place it at the beginning.
Just a second.
Just take your time.
It was taught by people.
Now, just pay attention to the tense. You started, okay, first you said it is taught, and that's the first option. That is okay, but try beginning this one with she. Try to extract the subject of the subordinate clause, and that's she.
She died.
But you need the passive now. So she is thought. You have to use the from the main clause.
So she is taught by people. Maybe.
Okay, now you don't need by people. That's what we have. That if it's too general, like, yes, people think, no one else thinks but people. So she is thought, and then you don't need by people.
That she died in a plane crash.
Now, is it really the structure that she is thought that she died? What do you think? She is thought? We need that infinitival structure referring to the past. She is thought to. She is thought to have died. So it is thought that she died, that what you said, or she is thought to have died in a plane crash. So all of you look at this structure, to have died. So I told you that 2 weeks ago, I think, that not all infinitives are just play to play, die to die. There are certain cases of the infinitive when you need to signal, since you know that you cannot really express the infinitive in the past, in the future, and so on. But there are some ways, this is called the perfect infinitive, so you do express some kind of, let's say, past event with using this structure. So she is thought to have died in a plane crash. Okay, thank you. Okay, Mila Jovic, is she here? Is Mila with us, maybe? Okay, if not, Milica Petrovic. She's not here either. Andrea Anojčić.
Yes, I'm here.
Andrea. So, a drunken motorist knocked her down.
She was knocked down by a drunken
Motorist. Okay, excellent.
motorist. Yeah, no, okay.
Okay, she was knocked down by a drunken motorist. Okay, so this is a very, let's say, straightforward example of a monotransitive verb passivized in the simple past, where you need to retain the agent by a drunken motorist, because it's not really the same who knocked her down. It's not irrelevant. Okay, those at work must pay for the welfare benefits in this country. Okay, let's talk to Verica Kirchansky.
I'm here.
Okay, Verica. So what do you think about this one?
The welfare benefits in this country must be paid by those at work.
Okay, now you did everything excellently. There is just one little word missing, and that's for, and that's why we emphasized it, you see, because we somehow predicted that whoever did the sentence would actually forget about this. Welfare benefits in this country must be paid for by those at work, because if you had this preposition in the active sentence, to pay for something, you need to keep it, you need to retain it in the passive sentence as well. So something has to be paid for by those at work. Otherwise, you did everything fine. Thank you. Okay, Luka Manojlovic, the next one. We have given the first scheme our approval. So two objects, Luka, two objects, and then you need two passive sentences.
The first scheme
Keep the present perfect, be careful.
Has been given.
Yes, what?
By our approval.
But it's not by, really. The first scheme has been given our approval, because we was the subject and we don't need to say by us. So the first scheme has been given our approval. Now, what's the second possibility? Look at the direct object this time. The direct object is our approval. Try to passivize it with our approval.
Our approval. Has been given.
Yes.
The first scheme.
The first scheme. Our approval has been given to the first scheme. Very good. And very good that you mentioned to, because it can't just be given the first scheme. You have to give it to something. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. The next one. They believe the senator is well over 70. There are again two possibilities, because this is of that type that I drew your attention to. So there is a very generalized beginning, like they believe, people think, we consider, and so on. And then there is a subordinate dependent clause. Okay, so Mara Vozdenovic, is she here? Can Mara hear us? Okay, if not, Jovana Popovic. If not, then Bojan Stankovic.
I'm here.
Okay, Bojan. So two possibilities with this one. What do you think?
Well,
maybe the senator is well over 70.
Maybe it is thought that the senator is well over 70.
You just have to keep the same verb. It is believed. Okay, so it is believed.
Yeah, sorry.
It is believed the senator is well over 70. Good. Now try to do something with the senator. Try to extract the senator and move it to the beginning. The senator
is believed
uh-huh.
to be well over 70.
Excellent. The senator is believed to be well over 70. Very good. So again, in the first option, we passivize this very general beginning. Instead of they believe, it is believed, and then you copy the rest. The second option is that you find the subject of the subordinate clause. It is the senator. You move it to the beginning, and then you passivize the main verb. The senator is believed to be, and then well over 70. Very good. Okay, is Sergey here today? I didn't see his name at the beginning of the class, but is he here now? Because I can't jump all the time between screens. If not, then Branislava Vujanic, is she here?
I'm here.
Okay, Branislava. So,
they made me give details of my bank accounts.
Okay.
Maybe I was made.
Very good. Now be careful. Very good. I was made. You need to
give.
Or... Very good. I was made to give details of my bank accounts. Again, as you can see, we emphasized, we capitalized this word to, because this is something that you need to insert. It was not here. So look at the active sentence. It was not, they made me to give details. You know that this is not correct. However, if you passivize it, this particle to has to be inserted in the passive version. I was made to give details of my bank accounts. So be careful not to forget this, and it's very good what you did. Okay, then let's see who else is here. Vladimir Jovic, is he here?
Yes, I am.
Vladimir. Your sentence has no letter in the workbook. That's why we left it without an initial letter here as well.
Okay.
To cut her salary. Okay, so find the object and try to place it in the initial position.
Well, I is the object, or
is I the object? They there is no I actually here, so they are going to cut her salary. That's the sentence. So there is no letter in front of it. That's why we left it without.
Oh, yeah.
They are going to cut her salary.
I'm sorry, I was confused by something else. Her salary.
So retain the same verb, retain the same tense. Her salary
is going to be cut.
Yes, excellent. Her salary is going to be cut. Very good. So all of you see, we don't change anything. Once again, I'm emphasizing this. We are just changing the verbal category of voice from the active to the passive voice. Everything else has to remain the same. The tense, that's and all other elements. So her salary is going to be cut. Very good. Thank you. I would like you to measure me for a suit. Marko Adžić.
I'm here.
Okay, Marko, I would like you to measure me for a suit. Although I doubt you can do it really, but anyway, I'm joking. Not that you cannot do the sentence, you can't measure me for a suit.
This one is
I'm sorry. I can't hear you all the time.
I'm not quite sure. Maybe.
So you actually need to passivize the subordinate clause here. You can't do anything at the beginning. I would like to, and now what?
I would like to being measured.
To be measured for a suit.
For a suit.
I'd
Yes.
like to be measured for a suit. Okay, so in this case, you cannot passivize the main clause. You have to passivize the subordinate one. I would like what? And then within this object, to be measured for a suit is the passive version. Okay, thank you. We know that your companion has always been a troublemaker. Okay, so let me now just look at the list of who is actually here and who I have not contacted so far. Okay, Jovan and Milivoje wrote that their microphones were not working. Tamara doesn't have a microphone either. Okay, Angela Jankovic. Angela is here. Angela, can you hear us? Angela? Okay, if not, then let's talk to Svetlana Lalic.
Yes, I'm too.
Okay, Svetlana. So what about this? Let me just go back with my screen. Okay, we know that your companion has always been a troublemaker.
It is known that your companion has always been a troublemaker.
Excellent. That's because it's a very general beginning. We know, we believe, we think. So it is known, and then you copy the rest. Okay, what's the other possibility?
Your companion is known to be
Now, the good thing that you did, that you found the right subject, you extracted your companion, but you have to keep the same tense and aspect. So you can't say is always, but what? Your companion?
has always been known to be a troublemaker.
Okay, now your companion is known to have always been a troublemaker. I'm sorry, maybe I didn't hear you well in your first option, but maybe you said this one as well at the beginning. So your companion is known, and then comes actually the verb from the dependent clause, to have always been a troublemaker. Okay, so again, two options. Either do the extraction, perform the extraction from the subordinate clause in the second option, or you passivize that generalized main clause. Okay, thank you. The next one is they were driving cattle into the trucks. Okay, let's ask, is Alexander Georgievich here? And Ognjen Pajic? Okay, if not, can maybe Dimoski Philip hear us if he's with us? Or Jovan Čirić? Okay, I'll have to again go back to my screen then. Let me see if there is anyone who I haven't contacted so far. Okay, Dunja Knežev. Can Dunja hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Dunja. So if we look at the sentence, let me just please go back. That's it. They were driving cattle into the trucks. What happens with this one?
Cattle was being driven into the trucks.
Now, you did everything perfectly in terms of the tense aspect and the passivization itself.
The cattle.
There is just one small problem with the cattle. The cattle is a very specific noun in terms of the verb category of number that it requires.
Yeah, were.
Aha, very good. So instead of was, it's just cattle were being driven into the trucks. We will do this in about, let's say, 3 weeks time, I think. Nouns such as cattle, police, youth, folk, vermin, gentry, and so on. They are called unmarked plural nouns. So you don't see it from their form that they are in the plural, but they always require a verb in the plural. Like the police are doing something. Cattle were being driven into the trucks. But it's very good that you used the past progressive here, and that's what was required. Good, thank you. Now the next one is, we have argued about this question for too long. Okay, Jovan Lazić.
This question
keep the present
has been argued.
Very good. Keep the preposition. So this question has been argued
about.
Very good.
For too long.
Too long. Excellent. This question has been argued about for too long. So you see, actually the rule for passivization is very simple, but we all have to take care of all these fine little details to keep the right tense, aspect, mood, and not to forget very, very, let's say, seemingly insignificant elements and words that appeared in the active sentence and that can easily get lost in the passive, but then we don't get the right passivization, actually. So this question has been argued about for too long. Okay, thank you. The next one is, I don't like people staring at me like that. Okay, let's start from Sarah again. Can Sarah hear us?
Yes.
So in this case, you can again passivize only the subordinate clause. I mean, there is nothing you can do with I don't like. I don't like, and then what?
I don't like being stared at like that.
Excellent. I don't like being stared at like that. Very good. So I don't like is the main clause. You can't really passivize it here. But what you can do is look at the subordinate clause, the dependent clause, and then try to apply the passivization as it should be applied. Thank you. Kažite.
Can we say I don't like to be stared at like that?
Aha, I don't like to be stared at like that is absolutely acceptable. It's just a question of whether you retain the same degree of, the same meaning of duration here. I don't like being stared at like that emphasizes the, let's say, process. Although you're right, I mean, grammatically speaking, it is the same. Yes. Thank you. He's not the candidate we voted for. Well, this might be a tricky one. Okay, Jovana Davidović. Again, you can't passivize the main clause.
The candidate for?
Well, you can't really passivize the candidate because it's in the main clause. He is not the candidate. Try to passivize this part. We voted for. So he is not the candidate. That's the beginning is the same. He's not the candidate.
That was voted for.
Very good. That was voted for, or who was voted for, or just you can even leave out this conjunction. He's not the candidate voted for. So both are okay. he's not the candidate who was voted for, that was voted for, or just he's not the candidate voted for. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, can Mara hear us? Mara Gozdenovic? If not, then okay, let's talk to Jovana Banjanin.
Okay, they have not entered into serious negotiations.
You don't really have the direct object as such here. However, you can do something with the last part of the sentence and make it the subject of the the new passive sentence.
The serious negotiations were not entered into yet.
Everything is fine. Just be careful about the tense and aspect. So serious yes, very good. Serious negotiations have not yet been entered into. Okay, so we cannot neglect and we cannot delete the preposition here. Serious negotiations have not yet been entered into, because you enter into negotiations. Negotiations are entered into. Thank you. Okay, the next one is anybody attending to you? And we will ask Teodora Georgievich.
I'm here.
Is anybody attending to you? So you have to keep the question. Yes. What do you think? So you need the present, you need the progressive, and you need to, of course, find what to passivize, which part to place at the very beginning. And you need the question at the same time. Okay, so let's start here with this. Who is the subject here? In this
anybody.
Anybody, yes. So we eliminate anybody as the element that we would put at the beginning, because it's the subject. We need something else to put at the beginning. Which one?
You, maybe.
Okay, let's try to start with you. Of course, we need the question still. So are you what?
Are you attending?
Now, if you say, are you attending, then it's, first of all, it's active, and then you did not really keep the same meaning. So are you being what?
Attended
to by anyone else. Are you being attended to? So you can or you need not include this agent of the active sentence. If you want to emphasize the fact, like, is anyone helping you, then you can say, are you being attended to by anyone? But even without that, it's okay. So this was not really a very easy example, but it's a perfect one to show you that you have to keep all other things that were in the active sentence. The interrogative form, the progressive aspect, the present tense, and everything else. Okay, thank you. Okay, Marko Adžić, I shall bring up this question at our next meeting.
This question is going to be...
Now be careful, you are not allowed to change the verb and the form of the verb. So if it was I shall, then in the third person, of course, it changes into will. So this question...
this question will... this question will be brought at our next meeting.
This question will be brought up at our next meeting. Okay, so we kept simply that, what we call the We will do that next time, or maybe you did it with Sasha already, I don't know. So this is what we call the simple or plain future, will, shall future. I will or I shall, you will, he will. So this question will be brought up at our next meeting. Okay, thank you, Marko. Branislava Vujanic, can you do the next one for us, please?
Yes.
They
considered
two possibilities. Yes, sorry.
They considered Mr. Smith was one of their best workers in those days. So
just take your time. So look at the beginning. They considered.
It was considered.
Very good. That's the first possibility. It was considered.
Yeah, that Mr. Smith was one of their best workers, and
so that you just transform the first part. It was considered that, and copy the rest. And what's the next thing? Mr. Smith was, Try to find the subject of the dependent clause. And that's what you begin with.
One of.
Where is the subject? Where is the subject of the subordinate clause? They considered, and then comes the subordinate clause. That Mr. Smith was blah, 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 blah. So who does something, in other words, who does something or who is something in the subordinate clause?
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, okay, so place Mr. Smith in the initial position.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Now comes the main verb from the main sentence.
Was considered.
Was considered, okay, so Mr. Smith was considered, and then what? To be
one of their best workers.
Yes, Mr. Smith was considered to be, or just considered. You know that it happens with consider that you can but need not necessarily add this to be. And of course, the first option, the second option here is what you gave as your first option. Thank you. So these are the two possibilities. This might be a tricky one. We'd better see to the car or we will have an accident. Okay, Luka Manojlovic.
The car.
Okay, very good. Okay, what is hidden behind this with better? What is this the? What does it stand for?
Head.
Head. Excellent. So we had better see to the car, and as you said, the car, and now start with the same structure. The car
has to be seen.
No, had is fine because you can't change it. Had better is simply a set expression. The car had better what? And now you need the passive. The car had better
be seen.
Be seen. Excellent. Too. The car had better be seen too. And then the rest you just copy. You can't do anything with it. Very good. So it's very good that you recognize that this the is not actually would or should or something that students usually say. With better, it can only be had better, and then it's followed by the base form, see. And when you passivize it, you can't change anything about had better. It's like a need or must or something. It's a kind of modal structure. So the car had better be seen to. To is important. It's a preposition. And then the rest, you can only copy it. Thank you. Okay, the next one is they seem to have looked after the house quite well. Okay, Svetlana Lalic.
They seem to look after the house. The house seemed to have been looked at quite well.
Okay, the house seems, just be careful about the third person singular, the house seems to have been looked after quite well. Thank you. Very good. Okay, the next one is again a question, so you have to keep it as a question. Why are people always laughing at me? Okay, let's talk to, is Alexandra Ongur maybe here today? If not, then Bojan Stankovic, I know that he is here.
Yeah. Maybe why am I always being laughed at?
Excellent, excellent. Why am I always being laughed at? Yes, you did very well because you kept the progressive aspect, you kept the present tense, and most importantly, you kept the preposition. So after laughed, you need at, because otherwise, why am I always being laughed makes no sense. Laughed at. Good. They are holding 3 hostages. Okay. Let me ask if I have to see if I have neglected maybe someone completely, and I'm sorry if that happened. But as I told you, I can. Oh, Tijana Trifunovic. Sorry, I skipped you, seems twice. Okay. Sorry, Tijana, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, Tijana, let me just go back to my screen with the presentation. Okay, they are holding 3 hostages, Tijana.
3 hostages
Uh-huh.
are being held.
Excellent. 3 hostages are being held. And you will do another one because I skipped you last time, sorry. Nobody could beat him 10 years ago.
Some more minutes.
Just take your time. Can you find the direct object and then it will be easier?
Maybe him.
Him, yes, good. So what happens with him if it moves to the subject position? I mean, it can't stay him.
Yes. He.
Uh-huh.
He could not be beaten.
Yes, he could not be beaten.
By anyone 10 years ago.
Excellent. He could not be beaten by anyone or by anybody 10 years ago. Even if you leave out by anybody or by anyone, even in that case, it's fine. So he couldn't be beaten 10 years ago, or he couldn't be beaten by anybody 10 years ago, if you want to emphasize the fact how unbeatable he was. Okay, sorry, let me just ask you, are you from Group C?
Yes, I'm from 2 language group.
Okay, very good. So excellent that you joined us. So you received Sasha's message that he wouldn't be able to actually have your class today, but it's very good that you joined us. Good, thank you. Let me just again see if we have anyone else here. Has anyone else maybe joined us from the third group? Okay, Danica Mitrovic. I'm sorry, I seem to have neglected you as well.
No problem.
Yeah. Oh, Danica. Mary told me that somebody has attacked and dropped her in the street.
Mary told me that she had been attacked and robbed in the street.
Excellent. Mary told me that she had been attacked and robbed in the street. And there is actually one other possibility to passivize the first part as well. What would you do with this Mary told me?
I was told.
Aha. And now you have to say by Mary, of course, because, I mean, you have to say who told you something. So I was told by Mary, and then you can either leave the rest unpassivized or you can do what you have already done. I was told by Mary that she had been attacked and robbed in the street. Very good. Okay, thank you. Dušica Miladinov, can she hear us?
Yes.
Police are looking for the missing boy. They can't.
Sorry, there is a mistake. Sorry, there is a mistake in the workbook. Should be the police are looking for the missing boy. So just please, in the workbooks, you should correct this. So the police are looking for the missing boy. They can't find him anywhere. Okay, try to passivize both these sentences.
Separately or together?
Separately. First, the first one, and then the second one.
The missing boy is being looked for by police.
Excellent. The missing boy is being looked for by the police. Yes, very good.
And then he can't be found anywhere.
Very good. Okay, very good. So the missing boy is being looked for by the police. He can't be found anywhere. Very good. Thank you. Okay, Vladimir Jovic, we have only spoken to you once, I think. They must have found the man due to bad weather.
The match must have been postponed due to bad weather.
Excellent, excellent. The match must have been postponed due to bad weather. So you found the direct object and you retained the same verbal structure as in the active sentence. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next one would be, we expect that the government will lose the election, and there are two possibilities here. So let's talk to, there are a few people who informed me that they couldn't hear us well. Let me just see who it was so that I don't bother them. Okay, can Angela hear us? Angela Anojčić? Sorry, Andrea Anojčić?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Andrea. We expect that the government will lose the election.
So the government is expected to lose the election.
Good.
And it is expected that the government will lose the election.
Great. Very good. The government is expected to lose, so you extracted the subject, or you transformed the first part, so the main clause, this generalized beginning, into it is expected that the government will do something. Very good. Okay, and now, okay, there is even a third possibility. I haven't even thought about it. It is expected that the election will be lost, but I think it is somehow, sounds a bit awkward and, let's say, artificial. Grammatically, it's possible to passivize the election from the subordinate clause as well, but I really wouldn't think of this as my first options. Now, ovo je sad kao šlag na tortu. They report that the police recaptured the fugitive in a local pub. 4 possibilities. Okay, how come 4 possibilities? Because it is a combination of both this generalized beginning, they report, then it contains a subordinate clause, which in turn contains another direct object. As you can see, that's the fugitive. So you can start with the police, you can start with the fugitive, and you can start with that generalized beginning, and then you can make a combination of these. So whichever you think of first, let's ask Jovana Banjanin. Evo, vi imate u stvari najlakši posao, vi ćete jednu, pa ćemo vidjeti. Ne brinite, nećete sve 4. Ili evo 2, ajde 2.
Some moment. They report that police recaptured the fugitive in a local pub was reported.
Sad prvo dalje. Ajde da ostavimo i na local pub za malo kasnije. Because
reported onda možda.
The fugitive is reported, jel tako? Zato što je they report. Znači ne možete otići tu u prošlost. So the fugitive is reported what? Sad je nešto što mu se desilo u prošlosti. So the fugitive is reported. Sad idemo na onaj perfect infinitive, ako se sećate. The fugitive is reported to what?
Have captured.
To have been. Njemu se nešto desilo. The fugitive is reported to have been recaptured.
In a local pub.
By the police in a local pub. Dobro, ovo by the police čak i nije neophodno. So the fugitive is reported to have been recaptured in a local pub or by the police in a local pub. Okay, what if you start with the police?
The police was reported to.
Samo da li was? Pogledajte, imate they report, imate sadašnje vreme. So the police, i imate to da policija mora biti u množini, kao i onaj cattle. So the police, what?
The police were.
Ali da li je prošlo vreme? Jer they report.
Are. The police are reported to have recaptured the fugitive in the local pub.
Odlično. The police are reported to have recaptured the fugitive in a local pub. Dobro, dosta smo vas kinjili. To su sad vaše dve rečenice. Dobro, vi ste uradili stvari, ajde da kažem najteže. The fugitive smo stavili, the fugitive je bio subjekat, is reported to have been recaptured. Onda smo stavili the police are reported to have recaptured the fugitive. Da vidimo Jovan Lazičić, šta nam je, imate bar jednu od preostale dve varijante. Hajde idemo ono najlakše, onaj generalized beginning, they report. Kako to možete da pretvorite u nešto opšte?
It was reported.
Ali da li je was, ako je they report? Nije they reported, nego je they report. Dakle, da li je it was reported ili nam treba sadašnje vreme?
Sadašnje.
Znači nije it was reported, nego it is reported.
Is reported.
I sad sve ostalo prepisujemo. It is reported that the police recaptured the fugitive in a local pub i tako dalje. A Jovane, posljednja mogućnost, isto je sa it is reported, ali hajde da pasivizujemo the fugitive u zavisnoj rečenici. So it is reported that the fugitive what?
Was captured by the police in a local pub.
Dakle, šta je četvrta mogućnost? Isto počinjemo sa it is reported, ali prosto pasivizujemo objekat unutar zavisne rečenice. It is reported that the police, it is reported that the fugitive, i onda idete naravno dalje, was recaptured by the police in a local pub. Dobro, ovo sad sve zvuči strašno jer ima 4 mogućnosti. Ne brinite se, na testu nećete dobiti rečenicu sa 4 mogućnosti, nismo baš tako pokvareni. Dobit ćete najviše sa 2 i to one tipične kada imate 2 objekta, indirektni i direktni, ili kada imate ovo tipično, ne znam, they think she is intelligent, pa onda da kažete it is thought that she is intelligent ili she is thought to be intelligent. To je maksimalna komplikacija i maksimalna težina koju ćete dobiti da ako imate dvostruku pasivizaciju. Ovako nešto neće biti. Okay, we don't have much time left because of our conference today, but I hope that we will at least be able to do one other exercise. And that will be, as you can see, number 8, make a passive sentence from the words in brackets. It's exercise number 8 on page 55. So actually the next one, if you have your workbooks open, then it's the next one after this marathon exercise. So you have the words in brackets and you have the context. So you should be able to infer or to conclude what you should do next. Mr. Smith can't use his office at the moment. Let's ask Okay, Jovana Davidovic, what's happening? Why he can't use it?
It's being redecorated.
Yes, it is being redecorated, and it is very good that you used the present progressive because
It says at the moment. So.
Yes, at the moment it was the signal that helped you determine that you should use the present progressive, and so it's something that is in process, that is still going on, and that hasn't been completed or finished yet. Very good. B, where's the car? Oh dear. Okay, let's ask our colleague from group C. I'm sorry, I don't have your name in the list, and I don't want to skip to the other screen. Trifunović, ako se ne varam, je li tako?
Da. Mislim da je it was stolen.
Okay, could be it was stolen. Theoretically, it's possible, and grammatically, it's acceptable. But try to focus on the result. So someone went to the parking lot, and there is no car. So the result is an empty space and his or her shock. So try to think of a structure that would emphasize the result. So it's not simply it was stolen as an activity in the past, but something that has a present result.
It is.
Not really it is, because then it would be going on right now. It has already disappeared. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There are two possibilities actually here. I have just used it, and in this sentence again. Mm-hmm. So which tense aspect combination emphasizes the present result of a past activity? And it's called the present something. Mm-hmm. It's the present perfect. So it's either it has been stolen, like when you see someone, I don't know, with a bandage or something, then you see, oh, what happened? And then he says, I've hurt my arm or something like that. So here is the result. You can see what the So it has been stolen, or it could be it must have been stolen, it seems to have been stolen, or the third option that I've just given you, it has been stolen, it's not here. So it has been stolen, it must have been stolen, or it seems to have been stolen, because it is your, let's say, you presume, you assume what happened. You don't really have proof, but this is what you think has happened. Okay, thank you. Example C, your room looks different. Okay, Teodora Georgievich, what do you think? Your room looks different.
You must have painted it since I was last here.
Okay, fine as far as grammar is concerned, but then you don't really capture the essence of the exercise, because it has to be in the passive voice. And there is actually something missing in the slide. There should be a question mark, and it is in the workbook, if you have your workbook. Since I was last here, there is a question mark. I'm sorry, it's missing in the presentation. So you need a question, and you need it in the passive voice.
Maybe have you.
Have you what? The beginning is okay, and the aspect is okay. It's the perfect aspect. You need the present perfect. But have you what?
Have you been? No.
Then again, it's in the active. So let me try to help you. Do you really paint your whole apartment by yourself?
No.
I don't mean just you personally, but do people generally do it? Or do they have someone do that instead of them?
Oh, yes.
Or for them? So this is what we call the causative have, when you have something done for you by people who are professionals in the field. So have you had it painted?
Yes.
Have you
had it painted since I was last here.
Last year? And again, of course, we need the question mark at the end, not the full stop. So have you had it painted since I was last here? That's the question. In the sense, did anyone else come to the house and paint the house? Or of course, people who regularly do that for a living. Okay, thank you. Did anybody call an ambulance to the scene of the accident? And the answer is yes. Let's talk to Verica Kirčanski.
I'm here.
So did anybody call an ambulance to the scene of the accident? Yes, but if you look at the parenthesis, nobody injured, so it not needed.
Nobody has been injured, so it is not needed.
Okay, now you somehow shifted the whole situation to the present. It's not wrong, but let's stick to the past because everything here happened in the past. So nobody was injured or had been.
It was not needed.
So it wasn't
needed.
So nobody was injured or nobody had been injured, which is maybe even better because it happened before the fact whether it was needed or not. Nobody had been injured, nobody was injured, so it wasn't needed. Okay, thank you. And the last one. A tree was lying across the road. It blown down in the storm. Okay, let me again see if I have accidentally maybe neglected someone and not talked to them at least twice. Okay, Milica Petrović, can you hear us? Milica? If not, okay, Luka Manojlović.
Okay, it was blown down in the storm.
Okay, that's one option. Let's say something that you would probably use in everyday spoken communication when you do not really express yourself very, very precisely. But let's try to focus on when this. Let's try to focus on when this could have happened if a tree was already lying across the road. Let's focus on the fact that it happened before that.
It was.
Try avoid using the simple past with was because we already have it. The tree was lying across the road. Try to move 1 tense back.
It is being.
1 tense back, not forward. 1 tense back. So if the tree was lying, then something happened to it before that.
It has had.
Yes, you need the past perfect. It had
been blown.
Yes, it had been blown down in the storm, or if it's something that you presume happened, then it must have been blown down. Either it must have been blown down, or as you said, it had been blown down in the storm. Okay, thank you. We will have to stop now, although we have 6 or 7 minutes more left. But since this is, as I told you, a very confusing day and we have a lot of work to do, both me and Sasha, then he will have to proceed with his group B. Thank you for joining us and thank you for joining us from group C as well, whoever came, and we will then see each other and